amazing authors, 52 weeks. And today you are in for a treat. If you are a person that loves to travel, thinking about traveling, this episode is for you because I am joined today with Melanie Kiss, who is a world traveler extraordinaire, maybe an enthusiast of all things travel. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everyone. Thanks for
How,
inviting me today.
I am so excited, and we got a lot to talk about because I have to share a story with the audience about you and I traveling somewhere a few years ago. But tell our listening, viewing audience before we get deep into the travel. Tell our listening and viewing audience just about you and your background.
Okay. Yeah. So I live in Washington State and I grew up traveling. My parents always took us on trips every year. We would go to Disneyland or we'd do a road trip somewhere. We were always going somewhere. So it was just part of life growing up. And then I became a mom and did all the career things. I met Lisa because we work in the same field of health information management and have done a lot of work together over the years, and that has been my career, is doing health information. And with that job, it took me to a lot of places. I traveled all over the US. I even did some international travel that I know Lisa's going to talk about, and that really sparked my travel interest. And I decided to take it to the next level and create my own travel company where I take women on small group adventure travel. And I wrote a book about it a few years ago, and that's what we're going to talk about today is my book. And it's really to empower women to feel confident and safe to travel the world, whether they go on their own or they go with a group where they don't know anybody, but they're kind of still alone, but they're getting out there and getting out of their comfort zone and being able to see the world. So that's really my passion, is helping women to see the world.
Wow, I love it. So I'll tell you something interesting. I was recently speaking to a group of women, and one of the things we talked about was imposter syndrome and some women, just feeling like they weren't worthy of a lot of things, including travel. And I remember growing up, I was told work, retire, and then travel. But
Mhm.
then my mom took us on a trip to Disney World, and I was like, I like this traveling, thing. And so when I became an adult, I was like, forget that retire and then travel. I am traveling now.
Yes, that's so important because I hear that so much. Like, I don't have time right now, and I'll just wait until after I retire. But then you hear all the stories of people that retire and then maybe they get sick. They have some sort of illness that doesn't allow them to travel. And I'm of the mindset, like, do your traveling while you're young and healthy and make it work.
Yes, and you know what? You and I both know when you travel out of the country, it does a number on your body. And
Mhm.
so if you are, when we went on our trip that I'll talk about in a minute, we both were, in our 40s. And so we were young, but I will tell you, going on this trip, which I'll talk about in a second, I think I was so pumped up going, then getting there, doing what we did. And then on the back end of the trip, came home, that same level of energy, thought I was just going to keep going. And then I don't know, about 8 hours after being home, I literally just crashed.
Yes.
And it was a couple of things that I did not do. Like I didn't hydrate like I should have hydrated. And so I know that that was part of it. So we both had an opportunity to go to Abu Dhabi, Dubai to do a presentation. It was like 7 days long. And that was the first time I had been to the Middle East.
Mhm.
And so, number one, for me, my husband, as you know, went with us because he was like, yeah, you can go, but you're not going by yourself. Right.
Yeah.
So, but when we got there, he was like, oh, I can see you coming back here, without me, as long not by yourself, but without me, because, he felt like it was safe. And today I am seeing so many people visiting Dubai, Abu Dhabi, like every day on my timeline, I see a
Yeah.
picture of somebody on a camel, and I'm like, I bet you they're in Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
Yeah, yeah. When the first chance I got to go there, and I've probably been there 5 or 6 times, and I'd been there a few times before you and I went, and it was kind of an unknown to me. Like, okay, I'm going to Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I've heard of these places, but where even is it? And is it safe? It's in the Middle East. And I was a little bit leery and hesitant the first time I went as a woman and being from the US, and I just wasn't sure what to expect. But once I got there, the people were wonderful. It was so welcoming. And now I tell everybody, you should just go. It's so fun. It's such a different culture. The food, oh my gosh, the food is fantastic. And the people are so welcoming, and it's just something very interesting to explore. And you're right, it is exhausting to go on those overseas trips, but so worth it. But can you imagine, we did that in our 40s, but imagine trying to do that when you're 70 or so and you're retired, and you've got the time now, but do you have the energy, and can you do that? And think of everything we did while we were there, riding camels and going and playing in the desert and staying out late and doing all the things. That's not easy to do when you get older.
Absolutely. And I remember Paul and I talking about the seats that we were on the plane, right? So since my trip was paid by someone else, I could not fly in the front of the plane. I had to fly in the back of the plane. And so
Mhm.
that kind of added to, I think, my tiredness because I couldn't really lay down and go to sleep. And so now Paul and I have this rule. If we're doing long flights, we are going to book them 1 to 2 years in advance, and we are going to sit in the front of the plane because we're comfortable. Plus, Paul is like, he's like 6'3", he's a big
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
So he's like, his body can't handle that.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to spend that amount of money because it is very expensive to sit in the front of the plane, especially those lay flat seats that are so wonderful, but it's really worth it. And advice I have for your listeners is try to stick with one airline and get all your points with them, be loyal to them, because then you can get upgrades. You can use your points to upgrade to those front of the house seats and get those niceties up there. Because it's hard to, like, for me to, I'm flying to Greece in a couple months. An economy seat is 1,000 and the lay flat seats is $5,000. That's a lot. But if you can pay 1,000 and then use your points that you've accumulated to move up to those first class seats, that's a great way to go.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because somebody may say, wait a minute, you two fly what? Well, first of all, we don't take those out of the country trips that often. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on, as you know, I do a lot of this and that, right? And so generally, when we're taking flights that long, we are doing payment plans on the trip. We're not putting a credit card down because then you get back and now you got all this debt.
Right.
And so we really try to plan in advance. Now, I will tell you, during the pandemic, we went to Aruba and we got seats up front for dirt cheap.
Yeah.
It was a really cool trip.
Nice. Yeah, there was some good travel deals during the pandemic. And that's actually when I started my travel company. I mean, isn't that crazy? That's when I wrote my book, started my travel company. Well, because I had a lot of time on my hands because I wasn't traveling the world with my job. So I had a little bit of time to really focus on these things. And I just started with my travel group since it was pandemic time. We couldn't travel internationally much or at all. We started traveling within the US, and it was such a great time to really explore our own country. There was so many national parks I had never been to because I'm like, yeah, I can go there anytime, but being forced to see my own area was awesome. And there's so many great places to see right here in the US. So you don't have to spend thousands of dollars and go abroad and see things. There's so much right here.
Oh, you know what? That's so important that you got to kind of crawl before you walk. And there are some people, and I know in Chicago, that have not left Illinois,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
know.
I just, so your book, Adventure More, Worry Less, is critical because we are all working very stressful jobs, have to some extent stressful lives. You got kids, and as we're aging now, we got grandkids, right? We got all of this stress. So you
Mhm.
need to enjoy life. You need to adventure more because it does help with your overall stress level.
Absolutely. Yes. And in addition to helping out with stress, giving you the refresh you need, it also changes you. I truly believe every trip I go on, even if it's just a weekend road trip to somewhere new, I'm a changed person because I meet somebody I never would have met. I go to a restaurant and try a food I never would have tried. I go on an excursion I never would have gone to, learn some history. Like all of those experiences, they change who you are and change the conversations you can have with people going forward. So it's a must in my mind. You need to travel and experience those things.
Absolutely. So I think as today, I've been to 43 of the 50 states.
You know what? I think I'm right there with you. I'm at 42 or 43. So, yep.
And there are some places that I don't know if I like. I don't. There's nothing calling me regarding North Dakota and South Dakota. So I'm like, I don't know. It seems like it's cold up there, like it's cold here. Like what's to do? I'm not. So even
Right.
though I travel a lot, I am not very adventurous. So I'm just going to tell you, last year, my husband and I went to Ghana. We did not do a safari. We didn't do any of that. We literally were we tried some of the food, but we weren't fully immersed in the culture. We were kind of, and it was our first time, right? So we were just kind of like laid back. So I don't know, maybe we missed a few things, but we did get to experience it.
Yeah, well, you were there. I mean, that's the first thing going, that's a long trip and a totally different culture. So, yeah, that's great. And you don't have to do like crazy wild things like zip lining and bungee jumping and those sorts of things to experience a new place, a new culture. When I say like try new things, it's even just going somewhere new. And it could be in your home state or a neighboring state. You don't have to go that far away. Go do a little walk to a waterfall or, go visit a local museum. There's all sorts of things you can do to just expand your horizons and try something new.
Yes. So tell us about Adventure More, Worry Less. I love that title.
Yeah, so this was a book that I had had on my mind for probably 5 years. I'd always said, "Oh, I'm going to write a book about travel. I'm going to do it." And really, what prompted me to do it was because I was traveling so much for work. And a lot of times I would travel by myself to the Middle East, to Europe, to the Philippines, to lots of different places. And my friends and family, mostly women, would say, "Oh, Melanie, aren't you scared? You're going to be all by yourself in this new country." And I was like, "No, why would I be scared?" But that was like the recurring theme I kept hearing from everybody. So that made me think they need to be educated on that it's not scary, that you can do this. And so that's really what prompted me. And then I had it like outlined in my head and I just couldn't get motivated to write this book until I saw this. I don't know if it was a Facebook ad or some ad I saw somewhere to write a book in 30 days. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. It was $99 and it was this course and it was so simple. Basically, the company just sent me an email every day and told me something to do, like pick a title, write an outline, start on a chapter. It had definite work that you did every single day. And all you had to do was commit 25 minutes a day to do this. And I actually wrote a book in 30 days. I did it. I just
Wow.
sat down and did it. And of course, after when I say I wrote it, and you being a published author, you know that a lot of the work is in the publishing. The writing part, it comes somewhat easier, but then when you get to the publishing and the formatting and all of that, that was a bit of a nightmare. But the 30 days of creating the content, I did that, and then I polished it and made it what I wanted it to be and got it published and had some help with the publishing piece of it. But I was just super proud to get that out. And you, as an author, it's like this huge gratifying moment, like, oh, there's my book in print with my name and my picture and all the things. And so I've just had a lot of fun with it. I think I published 2020. So it's been 4 years and I share it with all my friends that a lot of my friends purchased it from me. I've had a couple book shows, which was super fun to do. And then if I through my Cheek is Abroad company that I have, I share it a lot of times with my new clients, and just to motivate them, to share with them some safety tips and just some general travel tips for traveling internationally. There's a lot of good content in there for both the new traveler and the experienced traveler. So it's really for everybody, and it's geared towards women just because that's what I see as the need out there is women are a little bit hesitant to get out there on their own and travel. But really, it's relevant to anybody, men, children, anybody. It has a lot of good tips in it. So it was fun. It was a fun project.
So we're not going to tell them everything that's in the book, but there is a part where you talk about canceled flights.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, this happens all the time. And missed connections too. My main airport is Spokane, Washington, which is kind of a smaller airport. So if I go anywhere, like if I was coming to see you, Lisa, I'm probably going to have to change planes in Salt Lake City or somewhere else along the way. There's not many direct flights to anywhere. So oftentimes I miss a connection. And so there's a lot of things you can do. You can sleep in the airport, which isn't fun. But you just need to know what are your options. And for canceled flights or missed connections, if it's weather related, you're out of luck. That's a act of nature, and the airline isn't going to do anything for you. So you just got to grin and bear it. You either go get a hotel or wait for the next flight, whatever you need to do, depending on when you can get out of there. But a good thing to know is if it's something related to the plane, like there was a maintenance issue or the flight crew was delayed, anything with the plane, the airline has to put you up in a hotel if you're staying overnight somewhere. They have to give you food vouchers. They should be getting you on the next available flight out of there. So just important things to know. What are your rights and what can you do to make the best out of that unfortunate situation? And there's been a few times where I've had canceled flights, and it was actually a good thing because it forced me to stay in that city or whatever area I was in for an extended period of time. And instead of sitting in the airport and wallowing over my sadness, I went out and I went and saw some places. I was stuck one time in Paris for 10 hours because of delayed flights, missed connections. And I'm like, well, I could sit here in the airport, or I can catch a cab, go into the city and have a nice lunch and see things. So you can make lemonade out of lemons at times. So I encourage you to do that.
And I think what's important about that is number one, you have to expect that it could happen and
Mhm.
think about before you go that you need to have a plan. But I think also travel insurance is very important. A lot of people travel without travel insurance. They don't know that if it is a mechanical failure, the delay of staff, what your rights are. And I think that's important because when it happens, your emotions are high. And if you
Mhm.
don't know, the rules, if you don't have a plan, like I always have a book, a physical book or two, an audio book 2 to 10 on my devices so I can have something to do. And I've learned that okay, well maybe that was God's way of saving me from something. And so I'm
Right.
just gonna sit here and wait for that flight to come.
I love that attitude. I always, of course, at the moment, you're just mad and like, I just want to get home or get to my destination. But then I love that attitude of just sitting back and saying, there's a reason that this happened. I was supposed to go do something else. I was not supposed to be on that plane, whatever it might be, that there was a reason for me to be here. So I'm going to make the most of it. And you mentioning to have a book or an audiobook, yes, that's good. The other thing that I've learned is I bring layers of clothes as much as I can pack in my carry-on because typically planes are cold. Sometimes they're hot, but usually they're cold. So even if you're traveling in the summer and going to a warm climate, you want to bring jacket or a sweatshirt, something. And that can also be used as a pillow or a blanket if you get stuck in an airport and you need to catch a little nap there.
And something else that I've started to do is to make sure I have like a granola bar or something because you just never know. Sometimes I'll fly into an airport and I'm like, It's 7 p.m. and the airport concession stands are like shut down. And so if you have a delay and you're sitting there hungry,
Mhm.
that adds to your anger, right? So always having, even if it's granola bar, preferably the ones that don't really melt too fast, or some almonds or just something in your bag that you can have because it happens and it can, you need to be prepared. Also,
Yeah.
I am finding, I don't know about you, if you're discovering this, I'm sure you have. Everything in the airport seems like it's double now.
Oh, yeah, at least double, sometimes triple. Yeah, yeah,
Like
ridiculous.
tea from a place that I like to go to. Now it's like $8 in the airport. And
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
so now like I'm traveling weekly and I'm just like, yeah, drink your tea at home and then
Yes.
skip the
Yeah.
airport. Skip the
Oh, yeah.
airport.
Yes, yes. I always bring food with me because I want to avoid the airport prices. But remember, no liquids when you're going through TSA. And even, oh, I was so angry one time. And I'm curious what the craziest thing you've had TSA take away from you. But I was going on a Chicas Abroad trip and I was bringing some cinnamon rolls from my local bakery to to take to our girls. And the cinnamon rolls, and they were frozen. And then I had the icing in a separate container because I was gonna frost them after we got there. Well, apparently the frosting or the icing is a dangerous material. So I got that taken away and I was so angry. So what they explained to me was anything that they could take and throw, and if it sticks on the wall, it's considered hazardous. So yeah,
Wow.
that's a good thing. So like yogurt would be taken away, any of those sorts of things.
And you know what? I think so many people don't read the rules before they go. And then they get to TSA and they're trying to make a scene. I remember I was traveling with my family and my cousin had a pickle in a package, right? And
Uh-huh.
the pickle was surrounded by liquid.
Oh yeah.
And so there was a whole thing about her pickle. But I actually have not had anything thrown away other than like lotion that I
Oh,
accidentally had a big tube of lotion.
oh yeah.
But what generally gets me flagged is I carry loose tea, and the
Mm.
loose tea is in a baggie and it's white and it's gray because it's like the Earl Grey and the lavender. And so, depending on the day, I'll get
Uh-huh.
flagged, and then they got to open it up and they look and they see it says, London Fog Latte. So they're like, okay, I guess this is okay. Definitely something, important to know before you go, because especially if you spent a lot of money on
Mhm.
that item. I recently went through with like we were doing the advocacy summit. So I had like 15 bags of popcorn because everybody loves Chicago popcorn. It
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
Garrett's because Garrett's is too salty for us as we're getting older. So I got it from somewhere else. Sorry, Garrett's. But I had those bags of popcorn. And so when I went through the scanner, the TSA guy was like, "You got a lot of popcorn." I'm like, "This is for my friends." And when I whipped that popcorn out during the advocacy summit, they were so surprised and happy.
Oh yeah. Chicago popcorn is the best. Oh, I need to get back there and get some.
Yes, yes. So tell us about your travel company. I know you
Yeah.
started it during the pandemic.
Yeah, 2021 is when we had our first trips, and it's called Chicas Abroad. And it started with just a group of friends that we like to travel together. And we would travel on our own, or we would go with another travel group. And we decided there was three of us, and we thought, we could plan this travel ourselves. And why don't we do this? And it kind of grew from there because other friends would contact us and say, "Oh, I see you're traveling all the time. Can I go with you?" And so I put together a private Facebook group, and it started out with 8 people. And now, 4 years later, we have over 2,700 people in this private Facebook group. So you have to know somebody to get in there. It's not like you can just join if you want. It's all women. And so that's where we do the majority of our marketing and chatting. And it's a fun group because we just talk about travel. I post pictures of my trips, other people's post pictures of their trips, share tips, and where are you going next? That sort of thing. And so every year since we started, we keep adding more and more trips. Some of the trips we do over and over again, the ones that we know and love and we think that are will gather a lot of interest, but then we're always adding new places as well. So for instance, this year we have 12 trips planned. I won't go through all of them, but you can go to chicasabroad.com and check them all out. But we've already gone to South Africa and Zimbabwe. That was our first one this year, and it was fantastic. We had 8 women, and they were from all over the US, and we did all the things in Cape Town, and then we went to on a safari, which I highly encourage you, Lisa, to go on a safari. It's so cool. And then we went to Johannesburg and then went up to Zimbabwe and went to Victoria Falls, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's amazing. And the African culture, I've only been to that part of Africa so far. I want to see more, but it's the people are so welcoming, and it's just so amazing to see that very different culture than what we're used to. So that was our big one so far this year, but we have one coming up next month in a couple weeks. We're going to Oregon, and Oregon is, and I write about it in my book. That's one of the places that I went to every single year when I was growing up with my parents, and it was our family vacation spot. So I wanted to do a Chicas Abroad trip there and just take people to my favorite places. And we're going to see the tulips. They have tulip fields there. We're going to do wineries in the Willamette Valley. I'm sure maybe if you're a wine drinker, you've had Willamette Valley wine. And we're going to go do some whale watching. We're going to do some hiking and walk on the beach. So one of the things about my Chicas Abroad company and what we try to do is we try to learn about the local area wherever we're traveling to. We support local restaurants. We're not going to go to the chain restaurants. We want to support local as much as possible. We engage with local tour guides. So it's not me being the expert on everything. We work with local tour guides, give them a chance to showcase their area. And then we have to do something adventurous. So we go hiking, we do kayaking, adventure more. Yeah. We do e-biking, regular biking, whitewater rafting, zip lining, all sorts of different things. And so we like to push people out of their comfort zone. And it doesn't mean you have to do something super extreme like bungee jumping, but even doing a hike that is maybe a little bit longer or a little bit steeper than something you've done before. It's just so affirming for people. And you get at the end of that hike, you see people just like so proud of themselves for what they did. And one of the nice things with this group of women, like for our Oregon trip, we have 10 going on it. We like to have between 6 and 12 is like the ideal number of participants. And you see these women that nobody knows each other at the beginning, or maybe they brought a friend or a sister, but by the end, and even if it's a 3 or 4 day trip, they're like best friends. Because they get to know each other on these adventures we do, and you're helping people on the hikes, like helping them get over a rock, or encouraging them like, you can do it, we're almost there, here's a snack to keep you going, and engaging in conversations to keep them going throughout the time. So that is one of the most gratifying things of Chicas Abroad, is just bringing women together, helping them to get out of their comfort zones, to do things they never thought they could do, and to experience new places and make new friends. So many of the ladies that have come on my trips, they didn't know each other on day one. By day 4, 5, 6, 7, they're already planning their next trip with this stranger that they just met. They've formed that relationship. And so it's so many new friendships are built out of this. It's been wonderful.
Well, you know what I see about this experience? You and I both know as leaders in our industry, there's lots of women. And I think that as women, sometimes in the workplace, we are competing instead of collaborating. And
Mm.
I think that what's happening on this trip is that you are, number one, saying it's okay to be uncomfortable, right? I decided last year I was going to be comfortable being uncomfortable, but you're helping them develop in a way that is going to help them in their professional lives because you're pulling them out of their shells. They're going to be more willing to go after this promotion because they have more confidence, right? In addition to getting to explore something that they haven't explored before.
Yes, absolutely. Let me tell you this amazing story that this is going to be in my next version of my book. So, a couple years ago, 2022, I went to Greece and it was a Chicas Abroad trip. And my friend wanted to go with me, but she had never traveled without her husband. And so she was a little bit leery. And I said, let's go. I'm going to say her name, Cindy. So Cindy, let's go. You're gonna come with me and it'll be okay. We're gonna fly together. It's gonna be great. And she's about my age and had raised her kids but she'd always done family vacations, never really ventured out on her own. So we flew over there, had a great time. She loved it. She was a little bit leery about the international travel part, but she did it. So now we're on our way home from Greece back to Spokane and we fly into Paris, and our flight from Paris to Seattle was canceled. And there was like 6 of us on this trip that were on that same flight. So what the airline did was they split us all up into different flights to get back to the US. So I went to LA, she went to San Francisco, others went to Minneapolis, like we were all over the place. So she was flying by herself at that point. And we had very short connection times. We had to rush through the airport, get to our gates, get to our next flight. And so we separated. She was nearly in tears, like, oh no, am I gonna make it? I'm by myself. And she made it home just fine. And it changed her confidence with international travel. It changed her entire life because guess what she did? After that, she had been a stay-at-home mom and she was looking for a career change, something to do. She is now a flight attendant. So she
Wow.
decided, and it was from that experience that she's like, you know what, I can handle this. And so now she's flying every single day and doing this. So it really does. It increases your confidence. It just shows you can do whatever you want to do.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? There are so many women that are sitting here listening to this thinking, "Ooh, I don't know if I could do it." But I think that when your back is against the wall, I mean, what are your options? Stay there or get on
Mhm.
this other flight by yourself.
Right, right. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
guess as someone who travels by myself a lot, I will tell you that there was one time I did an international trip and I had to come back home. I was with a group, but I had to come home early because I had a presentation to do somewhere. So I had to fly somewhere else. And so this was in Punta Cana. And so I was like, only nerve wracking part was like just getting from the resort to the airport.
Mhm.
But other than that, it was just like I was at home traveling, through the 50 states. So,
Mhm.
but would I go by myself completely? It depends. Like, I could totally go to Aruba by myself
Mhm.
because it just, it's just a different vibe. It's very laid back.
Yeah.
I could go to Jamaica by myself. Jamaica is one of my favorite places to visit. But I think the more you get out of that shell, adventure more, you will worry less. It will bring your stress level down.
Mhm.
And women's trips, I have found, I did a trip with Angela. The women didn't know each other, right? It was called Cheaper Than Therapy. We were on this trip the first day, not knowing each other, met up because it was supposed to be 16 of us. It wound up being 6 because the airport had shut down. We were in this villa just laughing and crying and drinking, but it was so much fun that we all left changed.
Yeah.
And for me, on this other side of 50, that's all I'm looking for.
Mhm.
Everything that I do has to result in me changing in some shape, form, or fashion, or I don't want to do it. I don't
Yeah.
want to do the things that I've been doing.
Right, right. I saw this meme the other day that was like, if you live the same life every single day, like you get up, you have the same breakfast, you go on the same walk, you do the same things every day, you're not really living. Like you need to get out and do something new. And I love your attitude of like, whatever I do, it's got to be something that changes me. And yeah, I'm with you 100%.
And I think what really gave me clarity about this is that as we get older, so many people are leaving. this earth, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't want to have any regrets.
Right.
So I'm just like, Nike, let's do it.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
other than the 12 trips, I heard you mention that you're gonna do a second edition.
Yes,
And
yes.
what's the plan for the second edition?
Well, my friend Cindy actually inspired me with her her change of life to becoming a flight attendant, like totally out of her comfort zone. So I really want to focus on stories
Yeah.
and interview other ladies and find out how traveling has changed them. So there's a lot more countries. Probably since I wrote this, I've probably been to about 15 more countries. So I have so many more
Oh,
tips to share from from my experiences. So I want to update that piece of the content, but then I also want to add in some more personal stories from other people, and maybe I'll interview you for a story, Lisa.
yes. You know what? So, as I've been embarking on this 52 authors, 52 weeks, one of my authors quit their job
Mhm.
and went on a 6-month trip. They were
Oh,
so stressed out, so devalued, just all the things, right?
mhm.
And they made this decision that they had to get away to find themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think if we would adventure more on a regular basis, we wouldn't allow jobs and relationships and all of that to just hold us hostage. We would say, you know what? That's small stuff, right? And just keep moving. And I'm like, I need to catch up with you because I'm thinking this year, 2024, I'm not sure if we're going to do an international trip this year.
Mhm.
I do have a cruise planned. I love cruising. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Now, a cruise, I definitely can do by myself because
Oh
I
yeah.
like to have a balcony room so I can read my books and listen to the ocean. It's really like my one of my happy places. Of course, I have to have some tea, but it really gives me an opportunity to unplug. Even though I haven't been on a cruise in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I hear the internet is so much better, but that used to be my thing. On the cruise, the internet was slow, so you really can't work, but I heard that that has changed a little bit.
Oh darn. Then you might take your work with you.
Well, you
But
know what? So you'll be happy to know that last year, when I made this decision to become comfortable being uncomfortable, I also made a decision about how I was running my life. Meaning, I'm no longer working sun up to sundown. I'm no longer working, like on the weekends. I'm really being very intentional about my life on this other side of 50.
I love it. I love it. I'm with you too. As you know, I made a career change a few years ago and been with the same company for a lot of years and poured my heart and soul into it and was working way too much. And I learned a lot. It was a great step for me, but when I moved into this new position, I'm like, no, I'm not working weekends, not working nights. My laptop is shut off. I'm not checking emails. And you know what? You still get as much work done. And you just focus. You spend those work hours focusing on your work. And then when you're done, you're done. And then you have that downtime to do what really charges you. So good for you, Lisa. I'm proud of you. Well, yeah, life
Listen,
is good now.
it is. It is. We're going to wrap up, but some of our colleagues saw me the other day and they're like, "Yeah, you definitely look different." And you look different, you sound different. Like they were like, "You were always happy, right?" But it's just a different. I'm like, "That's because I have this level of peace that you
Mhm.
can't pay for. It's
Right.
something that you have to transition to and walk and just live in it and breathe in it. And that's what I'm doing."
Right. Right. That's great. Yep. We need that. Every woman needs to do that.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So we will, when this episode airs, we'll have your website going across the screen. Okay, folks, this is not a group that you can just click and get in. So, because it's an exclusive group, and I will tell you all the things that end in ing, they are doing: laughing, hiking, sailing, and some
Mhm.
of the pictures. I'm like, oh, I don't. First of all, I'm not a thrill seeker, so I
Mhm.
don't parasail, scuba dive, zip line. I don't do all of those, any of those. However, I am one day going to zip line, but it has to be a
Good.
short one, just real
Good.
short.
Lisa, I hate heights. And it was like 5 or
What?
6 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, I went to Peru and zip lining was part of our trip. And I'm like, I'm not doing it, not doing it. No. But I got peer pressured into it and I was terrified. I was crying. The person had to push me off the platform because I couldn't, my legs were frozen. I couldn't go. And I hated it. Absolutely hated it. But there was like 7 different zip lines. So and you had to do them all to get back to the start. The first one was horrible. The second one, not as horrible. The third one was okay. The fourth one, I was starting to like it. By the end, I loved it. So you just have to like overcome that fear of like, okay, I'm not going to die. And it's amazing. So do it. Start with small one, but you can do it.
Yes, maybe I'll practice in the backyard or something first.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Well, it has been a pleasure chatting with you today. I can't wait to see the next version of the book. As a reader, I love to hear about stories, right, of other women that have overcome situations, experienced new things. I have a laundry list of places that I want to go to before I'm unable to, physically do those things. And so my desire one day is to go on one of your trips, but I got to get my nerves together. And maybe it'll be something where the list of things to do that end in ing are minimal.
Right. Yes. And we do have some, we try to do a couple each year that are more casual, more relaxed, like a wine tasting tour where we're going to do a little hike, but it's nothing strenuous. You're not going to fall off the side of a cliff. And there's nothing too crazy. So we like to have some of those too, because I know not everybody is a thrill seeker. Yeah.
Yes. But again, I really see this, what you're doing, as a way to help so many women.
Hmm.
Because women are struggling. They are
Yeah.
struggling big time. And as I'm, in circles with lots of women, I see them, they haven't been hiking, but they're near the edge in life.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they need something to help reel them back in and set them on a path where they could just be free to move about the country, become a travel agent,
Yeah.
become a flight attendant. I mean, I actually
Yeah.
thought about that, but I'm like, I don't want to be in the air that much.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's
um
empowering.
yes, it is empowering. Well, thank you so much for stopping by today, everyone. This has been another episode of 52 Amazing Authors, 52 Weeks. See you next time.
Okay.